Hi, Mike again. And in this film, what I'd like to take you through is how we can use our breath to rekindle that sort of sense of having enough calm to be back in charge of the situations that sometimes run away with us. And perhaps as you look at this picture here, this lovely mum with a lovely baby, and we get a sense that in this picture, she's looking very full of love for her baby and she's enjoying her baby. And there's a sense, I think, that she's kind of in charge. None of us really know because pictures sometimes portray something that isn't happening. But I guess as you look at this, I chose it because there's an air of calm about the picture. Now, if we can learn to track our breathing whilst we have our baby with us, whilst we're doing jobs, while we're out with our child, while we're breastfeeding, while we're bottle feeding, while we're engaged and busy with our infants, if we can start to track our breath with a sense of curiosity, I think what you'll find is that when you're feeling unhappy, your breath is a great tell. We tend to breathe very quietly and shallowly, but perhaps not rapidly. When we're getting anxious and fraught and worked up, our breathing changes and we breathe very shallowly. Sometimes, and you may have noticed this, you stop breathing. You may also have noticed that if you're holding your baby and you suddenly stop breathing, your baby will look up at you and as if in shock, and you'll see fear on its face sometimes. And that's because that sudden is part of our freeze response. And if we around our babies, they sense that, oh gosh, mum's scared, dad's scared, and the baby is immediately scared as well because the caregiver being scared is a bit unsettling for any baby. So if we learn to track our breath and if we bring real awareness to breath, we can notice when the events of the day, the stuff that's going on in our lives, the thoughts that are going through our minds are stopping us from having that sense of being in charge of our day, being in this present moment. Because if our brain sense a sense of fear or sadness, they either travel back in time a bit and we find ourselves looking in that rear view mirror of life, usually at stuff that hasn't been great. And then, did you see what I did then? We hold our breath, which sends the brain this signal that, oh, something's not quite right. Or we feel that sense of worry, perturbation, or fear even. And what we do then is we move out to the present moment and we start looking at what might be over the hill. Where's the threat? There's no threat now, but there must be threat coming because maybe it's tomorrow, maybe it's something that's happening next week, maybe it's a visit from the health visitor. And we start looking for stuff to worry about, almost to explain why we've changed this pattern of believing. Now, once we've established a degree of mastery over our breath to the point where we're able to go, now I get you. Now I see what's happening. And we notice that our breath is giving us that tell that we're moving into that morose, sad place, that contemplative, ruminative, worry place where our mood drops and our breath becomes very low and slow and shallow and depressed. Or there's anxiety about, and our mood is whirring, as is our breath whirring. And at these times, we can regain our opportunity to be back in charge by simply doing some belly breathing. And we don't have to put the baby down to do belly breathing. We don't actually have to stop what we're doing. What we do is this. Let's just do it together, perhaps. So I'm just placing my hand on my tummy, and I'm going to stop, and I'm going to show you a belly breath and talk you through it. So what I do is I take a gentle breath in through my nose, and I fill my chest with air and then into my tummy. So I actually feel my tummy push out like that. And as it pushes out like that, and I feel the air there, I then breathe out through my mouth with pursed lips. In through my nose. Out through my mouth. Feel calmer already. And we just breathe in that way, gently taking the breath in through the nose. The top half of the lungs fills first, and then we take the rest of the breath right the way into the bottom of the lungs, and it feels like your tummy is moving out. Then, with the hand still there, we purse our lips. So some of you might be wondering, why is Mike pursing his lips? It's just an issue of more control. Brain loves it because it puts us really in control of the out breath, and it stops the out breath from being a sort of exhalation like that we might do in a time of fear, or it stops the exhalation from being too slow and too turgid, a bit like we might if we were very depressed. So this is a very controlled approach to breathing. Some people find it really useful to imagine that you've got a balloon, a flaccid, empty balloon that's sitting just underneath your top where your tummy is. And you can feel your hand there. And as you breathe in, you're filling that balloon. And when the balloon is full, you purse your lips. And the breath leaves. Now, of course, you won't want to sit there in mums and tots, very obviously breathing like that. But once you've got this mastered, you can breathe in this wonderful fashion whenever you like, without anybody knowing it. Not that there's anything wrong with anybody knowing that you're just a brilliant breather. And you're one of these fantastic, wonderful people who's learned to track their breath. And by tracking their breath, they've got much better at recognizing very, very quickly when their brain is trying to take over and push you around. Because none of us want to be pushed around by our fear brain or our depressed part of our brain. This is an opportunity for mum to get back in charge. So I'm going to really encourage you guys to not only track your breath, but get really, really good at that belly breathing and build the belly breathing into our work as well. So that when you start to do some of the exercises in our course, you create calm first. We do another film later, a bit aligned to this, called Between Stimulus and Response. You'll see the two fit together quite nicely. Thank you for listening.